We're going to talk about today kashrut in the kitchen, a lot of mishaps that happen in the kitchen. For example, meat and milk, by the most part, and other things. So let's begin. The one thing is a lot of time the Gemara tells us you're not allowed to make dairy or meat bread. That means if you take you can have over here a dough, you can have flour, and you have over here, see this brown stuff is? Anybody see what this brown stuff is? The brown stuff is lard. It's called fat. They used to take fat, it looks like that, and they'll mix it with the bread, and the bread will have a very delicious taste. And the bread comes out meat. Are you allowed to have meat bread? No. You're not allowed. Also, the same thing. If the same thing here is milk. You see, in the flour they're putting what? Milk. Or you will have over here. Okay, I don't have anything else, other pictures, but we'll see. So basically, that is, you're not allowed to make dairy bread, and you're not allowed to make meat bread. A lot of times people do that. A lot of times people make dairy cookies. A lot of times people make dairy lipyoshki, something like that, or meat lipyoshki. They put some meat lard on top. That is not allowed. You're not allowed to have meat. Oh, so is there a exception? Is there an exception? How to do it? If somebody wants to make dairy bread, how to make dairy bread? That is, you have to have, number one, it has to be done in small quantities, very small amount. Number two, it has to be a shape very distinct. You could tell, oh, that's dairy, like cheese Danish, muffin, right? See, and it has to be unique shape, and it's something that's usually not eaten with meat. So here, you can have, let's say, it's like a cheese Danish like this. You see, a cheese Danish like that, but it's oozing out with cheese, and the cheese is oozing out. You're making it stick out a little bit. It will remind you, oh, that's dairy, don't eat it with meat, I just ate meat, or don't eat it together with meat, right? Or something, let's say if you make a muffin, put the cheese on top, like that, or butter, whatever you're gonna put on top, and that's gonna stick out, and that would make it allowed. So you have to make sure that the dairy part in the cheese item you're making is small, again, eat right away, you could eat it within the meal, and it's recognizable and it's a unique shape. That's basically how you do it. Let's say, see, this is like a baraka, but it's made of like a very unique shape, and you can tell, wait a minute, this is unusual. All of a sudden, the unusual part will remind you why it's like that. Okay, so that's basically what it is. So if you know that your mother or your sisters, and they make all these dairy stuff, dairy cookies and dairy pastries, they have to make it in such based on this. So now we covered bread. Now we go to ovens. Ovens is a very, very interesting thing, because now people have one oven. What are the issues with oven? Let me tell you what the issues with oven are, so this we'll understand why I can use the same oven with meat and milk. What's the problem? Why can't I use meat and milk? So here, as you see over here, there's a case. Over here is a picture. You see, there's a food baking in. This is like a picture inside the oven. What do you see over here? What's that smoke? This is called steam. Steam. That steam, which comes from like liquidy stuff, that goes, you see, all the way to the walls of the oven. The ovens now has the steam. Let's say this case is, let's say it's dairy, and now I want to make meat inside. What happens? The steam from the meat will go, take the taste from the walls of the dairy and go back inside, because the steam keeps on going up and down, up and down.
How does the steam come out of the wall?
Because it gets hot. The walls get hot, and the steam is medium, and it will bring it back down. So that's basically what it is. So sometimes you'll have like that. It doesn't matter if it's dairy, or it doesn't matter if it's meat. You see that? Oh, so 1 second. So therefore, and another problem is this splatter. You see this kitchen? You see this over here? This happens a lot. Sometimes you bake or you make something. This is just for illustrative purposes. So all this garbage that's on the side, let's say if you don't wash the oven, let's say this is meat, right? This is a meat lasagna, let's say. And now you're gonna make a dairy lasagna. All that taste from the racks and from the sides of the walls will gonna get cooked, and it's gonna go back inside with aroma and taste like that. So therefore, you cannot have one oven for dairy and meat. You know that? So what do you do?
Buy two ovens.
You buy two ovens. That's the best option. Sometimes it's impossible. Some people live in a small house. Some people, first of all, it's expensive and it takes a lot of room in the kitchen. Who can have two ovens in the kitchen? Not everybody. So the one example is here. It's just illustrative purposes. It always has to be covered. This is just to show you that you take one thing and cover it with foil, preferably 2 times. That's how you do it.
Preferably, what do you mean? If I have to do it one time,
Try to do it 2 times so that no steam can escape. That means, in different words, that if you're using a meat oven and you do only meat, then when you put dairy goes always covered, double covered. That's it. And then you can do it, because it's double covered and the steam will never ever come out.
From the bottom and top, or just?
Try to do it the bottom and top if it's possible. The same thing as if you go on vacation. You go on vacation and then you have food with you. and you rented a house, but you know the ovens in the vacation houses are not kosher. What do? You double cover with a foil. You could use it. You understand? So what about before we go to the microwave? Let's say, I don't know if anybody's seen ovens like this.
Yeah.
What is this? You have such a thing?
I think.
It's a double-decker oven. Double-decker.
Oh, it's like bottom, but that's two separate ovens.
Oh, is that it or not? Can I use one on top for the meat and on the bottom for dairy?
No, because the steam is gonna go up to the other one.
Oh, so it depends is how separate are they. Sometimes they're not separate, which means they share maybe the same fan, and sometimes there's a vent that goes down. So that you have to make sure you ask a rabbi before you buy one, because you have to make some good research. There are some ovens that are good, some ovens are not good, so therefore you have to ask. It's not so simple you can do the same thing. Oven racks always have to be also. So now let's say a person really wants to make cheese, I don't know, it's Shavuot time, this is where people ask a lot of the questions. They want to make, Rabbi, I want to make cheese, but I have to cook it open.
Yeah.
But it's a meat oven. Can I kasher the oven in a way that I'm going to cook meat and milk in it together? Who said no?
Yeah, you put self-clean.
So self-clean is the best. Self-clean is the best.
Do like 500 degrees for like an hour. Or something.
Rabbi,
Okay.
it's still gonna be inside of like
Oh, so what you have to do is like this, Rabbi said. First of all, you gotta clean it out. Make sure there's no spillages like I showed you before. None of this can remain. So you gotta do a very thorough cleaning. If you don't want to do it, you could just put self-clean. That covers everything. So you gotta make sure you do a thorough cleaning. You gotta make sure that it's try to wait 24 hours, and you gotta put it on high temperature for at least an hour. Actually, half hour. Half hour is enough. If you're really running out of time, and it's before Shabbat, whatever it is, before the Yom Tov, it could be less than half hour, but as long as it gets hot for a good a few minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, as long as it was hot for that amount of time. But that's very, very b'diavad. So try to do it half hour. That's what Rav Yosef says, half hour, perfect. And then the oven is kasher. Now you could use the other one for me, and you could basically kasher it in between. But the best thing is, if you don't want the discussion, it's a very big process. Try to use one of the items covered all times.
Wait, let's just say for example, it's I don't know, like a little day, and you make a brisket beforehand, and then or like a steak in the oven, and then afterward, another person comes and he wants to make like something dairy uncovered.
You have to kasher the oven.
He has to like.
Kasher the
Do you
oven.
have to wait?
If you're going to use self-clean,
24 hours. Or
it's
can you
preferably to do so. Preferably to wait 24
or
hours.
Can you just put it?
If you put on a self-clean, then it's something else. Then you don't have to wait.
What if you just put in an hour and...
Yeah, what if you just put a high heat for like 30 minutes and then
It's
use
better
it
not.
after?
It's better to wait 24 hours. That's what it says.
What do you mean by if there's no spillage, do you have to clean it?
Yeah. Talking about the oven, the taste has to be at least 24 hours old. We'll see this concept 24 hours is going to come up a lot in the shiur.
Yeah.
Let me explain you the concept. 24 hours means that any food, let's say, imagine this is a item. Okay, this is a cup. Imagine this is like a glass cup. I cooked here milk, hot milk inside. How long will the taste stay in this cup? For how long?
24 hours.
24 hours. After 24 hours, the taste is called tam pagum. Pagum means rancid taste. It becomes rancid, so therefore, technically, this taste is allowed, but not the chatchila. Chatchila, I cannot cook meat in it. But if I did cook meat in it, in this particular pot, because it's clean and the taste is only in the walls, and the taste it became bad after 24 hours, b'diavad, the food will be allowed, b'diavad, not the chatchila.
Even with a meat to dairy pot? And from meat pot to
So
dairy
we're going to discuss all these issues in a second. So just so you know, after 24 hours, the taste inside the walls goes bad.
What if it's a
Okay.
cast iron pot that specifically is meant to keep the
One
taste
second. So
from
we'll discuss that in a minute. 1 second. So here's another one. It's called a microwave. What's the halacha with microwave oven? Microwave oven works differently. What's so different about microwave oven is that it's the food in the area is not heated by the walls. The walls are heated just to food itself. It's usually very small. There's not much ventilation in this particular oven. Steam, so therefore it condenses the roof in the microwave a lot. On top of that, steam comes out even for dry food. Usually by oven, in order to get steam, you need liquid, some sort of liquid. By microwave, it steams, anything steams. So it's another issue. Splattering is more frequent. And behind the microwave, there's a vent fan, which food particles can collect and it's very hard to clean. So therefore, microwave oven, you should try to have either one meat, one dairy. And if you cannot, that's your work or in college, whatever it is, and you have to actually use a non-kosher oven, the same idea applies. You double wrap it. You put it in put a Tupperware cover, put it inside a plastic bag to cover it, make sure there's no steam can come out, and you can actually heat up food this way. All the questions will take an end. And then, Rabotai, the next thing is toaster oven. Anybody has toaster ovens at home?
Yeah.
Toaster ovens at home are also a problem. You cannot, this is so small. It's very small. It's very hard to kasher this oven. It's impossible because it's going to melt.
It's also underneath.
So therefore, it's very cheap also. It's like $30, $40. If a person, people technically could afford to have one meat and one dairy, and it shouldn't be a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, Rabbi, whenever we did not know this halacha, we used to like take tin foil and just put it on the bottom.
That's another problem. I said the racks also has to be
Not for
clean.
this, like
For the microwave?
yeah.
No, so it's the steam that's going to come out and it's going to circulate and
So
come
did
inside.
we technically eat non-kosher?
I don't know. So we'll see. We'll discuss that question in the end. Okay, the next thing I want to discuss is sinks. So how many people have two sinks in the kitchen? A lot of people. Who has one sink? Who has one sink in the, you have one sink in the kitchen?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do? What do you do with one sink? So it sounds like you're going to do like this, right? You're going to have a whole sink of kitchen dirty dishes like that. So what do you do? If you have one sink, you could technically wash with one dairy, one after the other. How do you do it? How do you make sure that you can wash dairy and meat in one sink? So preferably, you should try to get something like this. It's not such a good picture. What happened? It's not such a. You see this rack on the bottom? Does anybody see it?
Yes.
Something like that. Maybe it's not. Doesn't look like it, but something that's not going to touch the walls. Then on top of that, you have to do it like this. If you should try. Here's a list for you. Try to do one at a time. This is a sink. Let's say you have one sink. You do one at a time. Make sure it's clean, like in the picture. See, very clean sink. And make sure you never. You see over here in the picture. Never put steamy foods by the faucet, because the steam can go and make the faucet into meat or dairy. So don't bring it too close.
When
Hot
did the
food.
flavor ever transfer in the sink?
So we'll discuss the b'diavad stuff. But this is l'chadchila. This is how you should do it, and make sure your hands are not. Don't wash your dirty hands into meat and dairy. So that's way. If the sink is kosher, if sink is clean, you can do one run dairy, clean it very well, make sure it's clean, and then you do meat like that. So technically, there is a way to do. I'll take all questions in the end, right? There is a way to kasher meat and to have one sink, and you're good to go this particular way. If you go to the same thing, if you go to a vacation and you want to use their sink, you have your dishes, coffee mug, whatever it is, you rented the house, not kosher house, what do? The same thing. Make sure you clean it very well. If you have a kitchen, it's not kosher kitchen, not kosher sink, you clean it very well. You boil a pot of water, you kasher the sink very nicely, all over like for Pesach, and now do what we said before. You could, if you have dairy or meat, one after the other, as we said before. Now, what about dishwasher? Anybody knows anything about a dishwasher?
Only meat.
Huh?
Only meat. You can only use it for one.
Okay, so dishwasher is a problem. A dishwasher is a problem because it depends when can I use meat and dairy, meat and milk at the same time? No. Not at the same time. Even it's especially because hot water comes out before the soap. You have to be careful of what comes out first. The soap comes out first, or the hot water comes out first. If you have meat and dairy inside the one dishwasher, and the hot water comes out first and washes the dirt away with the hot water, what happens to all the dishes? One will get infected from the other. So therefore, there will be an issue. But if the soap comes out first, then the soap ruins all the tastes. All the taste of the food becomes ruined. And then the hot water comes out, it's not a big deal. But I'm not sure, you have to find out what type of a dishwasher you have, what comes out first. Every model is different, so it's very hard to tell. So therefore, try to keep the dishwasher to just meat or just dairy. Next thing I want to discuss is, a lot of people ask this question is, I have noodles. You see here? I have noodles. I made noodles in the meat pot. Can I take these noodles and put cheese on top of it? I put it in a dairy plate and I put cheese on top of it. Can I do that?
Yes.
Yes.
Who said yes? Can you explain why?
No.
Because whenever it was in the meat pot, it wasn't technically meat. It was part of. No, it wasn't.
Why? The meat I cooked over here before.
No.
I cooked the meat before, right? So how does it work, Rabotai?
If the meat
you have to wait 24
hours.
No.
Then you can have it. Then
So
it's
here
taboo.
is the picture, guys. Look at the picture. The picture I'm going to explain to you. This is called Nat Barnat. Nat Barnat stands for Notentam, Bar Notentam. The taste, son of a taste. You understand? The taste, son of a taste. So very simple. Here's a picture. You see, I put numbers over here. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Let's say the 1, 2, 3 is not different pots necessarily. It means step 1, step 2, and step 3. So what do you do? Step 1, I cook meat. You see, there's a meat sign on top of this pot.
Yeah.
You see? That means I cook meat. I cook meat soup. I cooked, I don't know, cholent, whatever it is. I washed out the pot. Now, what does the pot have? The pot has what?
Taste.
The taste of meat. Then I cooked second. You see over here? That same pot. 1 and 2 is the same pot. In the same pot, I wash it out and I cook pasta inside. Does the pasta have the taste of
Yeah.
the meat?
Depends how much time
Steam,
passed.
you're cooking it, so the steam is going
So
inside.
correct, but how strong is that taste inside the pasta?
You don't even taste
Very
it.
weak. That's called already son of a taste, right? Son of a taste. Then I will take this pasta and I will put it in a separate dairy pot and I'll cook it with cheese again. The cheese, by the time the cheese meets the meat taste, how far is the meat taste removed? 3 steps away. So therefore it's allowed. Okay,
even have to
lechatchila,
wait
for
24
Sephardim, it's according to Rav Ovadia, it's allowed lechatchila. Some rabbis, Sephardim, will tell you no, you cannot do lechatchila. Some rabbis say you should only, if this only was done, then you can eat it. But according to Rav Ovadia, you can have this lechatchila. You can do this every day if you feel like it. Same thing with eggs. Let's take an example of eggs. I want to have eggs and cheese, but I don't have a dairy pot. What do? I have a meat pot, but I cook meat in it. So what do? The same thing. I will clean the pot very well, because now the pot has meat taste in it, but it's weak because it's only a taste. There's no actual meat in there. So because it's weak taste, I will cook the eggs. I will take away the eggs. I put it in the dairy plate. So now the eggs is carrying very weak taste, but 2 times removed, because the meat went inside 1 time into the pot. Second time, the weak taste went inside the eggs. The egg is now carrying a very weak taste of the meat.
Rabbi, they could just buy it in pot.
That's true. That is true. But I'm saying this sometimes sometimes you don't have any other pot. Sometimes you need a big pasta. You need to cook a lot. So now by the time that the eggs or pasta meets the dairy, it's very weak. Because it's very weak, it's allowed.
What if someone buys, let's say someone makes
But not
noodles?
recommended, right?
If many poskim Ashkenazi will tell you not recommended, don't do it. Many Sephardi poskim will tell you the same thing. Rav Ovadia Yosef says it's allowed. Lechatchila, if you want to do it, you have what to rely on.
Rabbi, why can't the same be said about an oven?
Oven, because the actual that you were afraid of a mamashut taste over there.
No,
We're
but
not.
say-
Once you clean the oven, yeah, and you waited 20, and once you clean the oven, but yeah, technically speaking, most people don't clean the oven. People just want to cook it one after the other. Here we're talking about the pot was clean. The pot was clean.
And you
Next.
have to wait 24 hours, right?
No. If it's 24 hours, even Ashkenaz will tell us lechatchila, because the meat taste inside the first pot is how old?
Can you cook
Tam
dairy in the
pagum.
same pasta?
No, you
24
can
hours
never.
past?
No. That you can never do. Next thing, Leah Bat Rachel, Rafael Ben Hefzi. Now you see what's going on over here. Now we're coming to real issues over here. What is this guy doing? What is this guy doing over here? He's, Yes, he's just taking a spatula and mixing something on the fire. But this is, it looks very normal. But in the end of the day, if you have a guest or somebody who doesn't know what he's doing in the kitchen, he's gonna take something, let's say it's dairy. Let's say this is dairy, it looks yellow, white. The pot is dairy, but the spatula is meat. By mistake, he took the wrong spatula. Happens all the time. What is halacha?
If you can eat the food or not?
That's a big question. First of all, let's
You're not allowed to.
forget about the halacha now. How many questions do you have on this item? What are the 2 questions?
First, can you eat the food?
Can you eat the food?
Spatula,
Can you do spatula? What do you have to do with the spatula?
the pot.
And the pot. So you have to discuss this issue with this. Now, it plays, here's another example over here. Here again, you see a guy mixing something on a dairy milk or something. That spatula, let's say it's meat. What do you do?
Doesn't depend.
Or the
Right?
opposite, yeah.
Right,
Chicken
so-
on a dairy stand.
On this, the rabbi, you're gonna have to call a rabbi. I cannot tell you what to do because look how many factors are involved. Look over here. Number 1 factor, one is involved. Is it hot or cold? You have to know: was the food hot or was the food cold? How did the food in the spatula taste? Did the spatula take the taste from a hot or cold? Kli rishon, kli sheni. All these questions will be asked by the rabbi. Then the next question the rabbi will ask you is: when is the last time both the pot and the pot was there? When is the last time the spatula was used? Very important. That's a very big factor. Why is it a factor? When is the last time the spatula was used?
Because it has some
24
hot
hours
flavor.
past its
Because
pagum.
24 hours have passed. We're like, oh, we're good land. And if it's more than 24 hours, we're in easy land now. Then he's going to tell you how much of the food. Let's say it's not within. Let's say it's within 24 hours. Then the rabbi is going to ask you how much of the food, how much of the spoon is inserted. Remember that. If you ever do this, remember how much of the food was always inserted. How much of the spoon was inserted. Because that makes, now you have to, if you have to do sometimes calculate 60, you have to calculate 60, the whole spoon, or only what was inserted. That's a machloket in the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch has a whole discussion, is mikzat cham, mikzat kulo, or not. If part of the spoon gets hot, does an infection, does the taste of the milk go all the way up to the whole spoon, and now the spoon becomes all dairy, and now has meat and dairy taste going inside the pot, or not? All this is discussed.
By actual food, it's by the but by flavor
It is. We have to calculate 60 betul b'shishim.
No, but in the oven, for example, how's that?
We'll take about the oven. We'll take a question. Then the last question you have to know is how much of the food was used. How much food did you have inside the pot? Do you have enough 60 versus the spoon or part of the spoon? All this will be asked. I cannot give you, it's such a difficult content. But I'm telling you guys, whenever you call the rabbi, first of all, if you do this, you got to call the rabbi. And before you call the rabbi, make sure you have answers to all these questions. Prepare him, all this, make sure it's clear, and then he will tell you what to do with the food, what to tell you with what to do with the pot, and what to do with the spoon, and sometimes you might have to kasher it. Unless you don't want to kasher it and you have money, then you can just throw it out.
How are you supposed to know this? You're not cooking.
Oh no, we're talking about if you did it yourself.
But if you didn't cut it, you
No, then, we're not talking. We're not talking about. We don't have to go in such a big chashash and so on. Okay, the next thing we want to discuss is a lot of times. This is another guy who has no idea what's going on in the kitchen. Is what's going on here? Something looks very simple. Something looks very, very innocent. A guy is cutting some garlic. He has some jalapenos, peppers. Here's another one. The beautiful pictures, right? The guy is taking and cutting something very sharp. Or here's an onion. The guy cuts an onion. Now, what can be the problem over here?
He's using
Sharp
probably
foods
a dairy
take the
knife.
flavor
Dairy.
on onions. Now
Very
the
good.
onion become dairy, so now can you use this with meat?
Okay, very good.
No way, I did
You
not
see
know
that?
that.
See? Guys, remember, you must, when it comes to sharp items, if you're going to use the onion for dairy, let's say you're making eggs and you want to put onion inside the eggs, and you want to chop up the onions, can I take a meat knife and chop up those onions? No. I cannot do that. I got to take a dairy knife, and I got to take a dairy cutting board, and I got to cut it up like that.
What's considered a meat knife?
Meat knife? Oh, that's a discussion. That's why you can call the rabbi. So if that ever happens, you got to call the rabbi. But do yourself a favor. Do not cut the onion with a meaty knife if you're going to use the onion right now with dairy. Because the whole onion becomes, onion takes whatever the taste is inside the pot. Knife, it will take it out. That's how strong onions and sharp items are. It's not just onions, jalapeno, peppers, chili peppers, garlic.
Is it
The
just
Gemara says
sharp?
even a radish.
Anything or just sharp?
Anything that's sharp. Anything that's sharp.
What if a pepper is not sharp?
So no, we're not sweet pepper. We're not talking about sweet pepper.
So if you cut a sweet pepper, it doesn't.
No, it's a different
Actually,
question.
you should probably have what parv knife.
Parv knife, very good. That's why it's important to have a parv knife. Oh, let's say this happens all the time. Sometimes it happens. This is.
Oh my God.
I created the scenario here, a very unique scenario. The meat is on the grill, and the guy wants to see how soft the meat is, but in there, what is he sticking? What kind of knife is he sticking inside the grill? A dairy knife. That big problem because the meat is on the fire. The knife. We have to ask all these questions. We will be asked by the rabbi. When last time the knife was used? When you use it for dairy, is it dairy on the fire? Is it dairy off the fire? All these things make a big difference. So Rabotai, basically, be very careful when it comes to kitchen. I will talk about common mishaps in the kitchen today. I think we'll take questions then. One more. There's two more, and then we'll take questions. Next thing is spills. This happens very much. You see over here is a spill. I put it here. The spill is meat. You see? Let's say it's a cholent juice. I have no idea. It's soup. It's meat, basically. And I have a pot over here that's dairy. Can I, and by mistake, I put the pot on top of the spill. What is halacha?
It's good to
Fine.
the outside.
Because it's the outside.
So what?
It's not
No,
going
it's
into
It's
the
not
still
going
hot,
into the
that's
food.
Depends.
Does it penetrate through the pot?
Yes, it could. It could penetrate
the
the
pot
pot.
is hot.
If the pot is hot, and it depends. First of all, the milk also like that. So therefore, if it's something going on like this, right? That's the Gemara's example is that the dairy is oozing out of the pot. Sometimes when you boil milk, it just bubbles up and it starts coming out, and it starts oozing out, and it goes all the way to the meat pot. Then we have a question also Tata Gavar. Does the bottom one win or the top one wins? And there's a whole discussion. If this ever happens, big problem. Be careful from spills. So this can happen like that. Sometimes you have a spill like that on the fire, right? This is the worst case scenario. You have a spill on the fire, and then you put here another pot on top of that spill, while that all the contents are connected to the hot fire on the pot. So that's basically when it can become an issue. Another big problem, and we'll end with this, is lids. People don't realize lids is also a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another case. Here you have a meat dish cooking over here, and the guy by mistake takes a lid from a dairy pot. A dairy pot. He's gonna cover the meat dish with what? Dairy pot. Yeah. But you guys listen, it didn't touch the food. It just touched the pot. Problem. It's as if because again the steam of the food will go. They remove a lot of the taste from the pot and put it back inside. So that's a big issue. Okay, then the rabbi will also ask you how much the food did you have? When was the last time you used the lid and so on. So it works. Doesn't matter if it's meat and the pot is dairy, or in the reverse case where it's dairy and the lid is meat. doesn't matter. All these things, you gotta be careful. So that's basically the 1 foot. I mean, I try to do this in one bekitzer. Make sure to point out all the common scenarios, all the common issues you might have in the kitchen. Sometimes guys, sometimes kids like to experiment cooking. They love cooking. They like baking. Be careful. Make sure you ask, is this meat? Is this dairy? Can I use this spatula? Can I use this knife? Can I use that? Okay, now we'll open the floor to questions.
So if food is cold, in general, and you buy some mixed meat and dairy, is it a big issue? Like, how would you fix it? You just rinse it with cold water?
You mean had to kasher an item?
Yeah, let's say
That's what the rabbi tells you it's no good. And the rabbi tells you to kasher, so you would have to use basically the same way that you kasher things on Pesach. It depends.
Cold? If everything
No,
is cold.
not everything is cold, and the rabbi will tell you there's no kasher needed. You just wash it out.
Wash it with the cold water, right? And if it was like, let's say a hot spoon with, let's say it was batel b'shisha, do you have to clean it? The spatula.
No, if the food can sometimes be allowed because it's batel b'shishim, but the spoon is still is infected. You might have to kasher the spoon. So that can be. That's why I said it's like a Rubik's cube. It all becomes like a Rubik's cube, and depends on the scenario you present to the rabbi. The halacha would be X, Y, and Z. The food can be kosher, the spoon can be not kosher. All these things can be a factor. So you got to ask, and you have to make sure don't ever let this happen. Also depends if the food was liquid or if the food was solid. Sometimes a guy is cooking like let's say eggs, he's cooking chicken, stuff like that, right? That could be also a consideration. Yeah, I mean, we have a picture of a guy.
Frying.
Like frying. Here, the guy here using a spatula here, but he's using it for dry food.
For dairy, and let's say the spatula.
And the spatula is dairy, let's
There's
say.
also chicken. Is there a difference between chicken and meat?
No, there's no difference between chicken and meat. But again, you see here it's different because that's how you calculate. So all these things have to be taken into consideration. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Rabbi, chicken was never really meat. The rabbis made it meat.
So what?
Yeah, why did they make it meat?
Why? Because Chachamim said that any time that something that looks like meat, we're gonna put the gezerah on it on meat. The rabbis are obligated to put a fence for a Torah law, and they felt that this is that. There's only one rabbi that disagreed. What was his name? Rabbi Yosef Glili. Rabbi Yosef Glili was a rabbi who lived in Galil in the north, and he said chicken and meat is allowed. Chicken and dairy is allowed. But he was the only rabbi, and he was outvoted by everybody else.
Rabbi, technically it is on the Torah level, right?
On the Torah level, but in the Chachamim, but the Torah, the Torah obligates the Chachamim to enact laws like this, and therefore in Shamayim, this is a very serious halakha. You still have to do it, right?
So no matter what the chachamim would have.
Right, exactly. Because the Chachamim are doing what the Torah says. They are putting fences on Torah
Why
laws.
did he disagree then?
He disagreed because the Torah says, "Lo tivashel gidi b'chalev." Do not cook meat in its mother's milk, and he said chicken or fowl, any type of birds, does not have a mother's milk.
So I think you have chicken and fish together because that'll be two darabanans, no?
Chicken and fish, this is a totally different question. That's because sakana. The Gemara tells us that the meat and fish is a sakana, and we have a rule: chamira sakanta misura. That prohibition is less lenient, is more lenient than something that's sakana, than something that's dangerous. So for something that's dangerous to your health is taken much more seriously than something that's asur according to the law.
Let's say someone takes a meat spoon and he has like a cold chicken and he's putting it in a pot. Is he allowed to take that spoon and take out the stuff from the plate or pot?
Okay, so there are too many things that have to slowly get every single detail of.
Let's say someone makes noodles in a meat pot. Are they allowed to eat milk after it?
Yes, it's a good question. Which means it's not barnat. Again, the meat taste that came inside your mouth was what? Did you actually have actual meat? No. So the meat that came inside your mouth was actually a very weak taste that was inside the pot walls. So therefore, that does not, you don't feel the meat at all in your mouth. So there's no problem eating dairy after.